where this guy came from to where he is now is nothing short of extraordinary. I've never seen a 6'8" guy do a backflip. That's the kind of guy that he's up against. If he was born in the United States, he'd be a trillionaire because the guy is a freak. I just think in this fight, it's whoever connects first.
You're going to be stood up for the majority of this, aren't you?
These fights from start to finish are going to have me out of my seat. There's no point in even giving me a chair.
Welcome back to Uncaged on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. I'm Adam Catterall. Pleasure as always to be with you. And my co-pilot is ready to rock and roll, the one and only Mr. Brendan Loughnane. Locked down in Thailand, heading towards the final of this year's featherweight tournament with the PFL. How are you, mate? You good?
Deep in the trenches. Look at these cauliflower ears, mate. I'm wrestling at them every day, all day. Get ready.
That's what I like, my man. That's what I like. Listen, we're getting ahead of ourselves, obviously thinking about you in that final, and it'll be out in Saudi Arabia, of course. The PFL are already in Saudi Arabia for a fantastic week ahead, all in association with Zone Pay-Per-View. Francis Ngannou is back in MMA, the long-awaited return of Le Predator. They're excited about this, taking on Renan Ferreira. We're going to give you a full preview of that, and we're going to give you a full preview of that with this man. Listen. I haven't done a show with him for a long period of time, but the minute he pops up on my screen in those tinted glasses and that cheeky grin, I'm ready to rock and roll, baby. It is the main man, the one and only, the outlaw has come to join us on the show. It is Dan Hardy. How are you, mate?
I'm good, fellas. How are you? Always good talking to both of you.
Mate, great to have you on. I'm looking forward to your rundown on this card at the weekend. Obviously, great to have Francis back in MMA. Great fight for him to be coming back to as well in the heavyweight division. Great co-main event. Bit of British interest in there as well with Fabian Edwards taking on Johnny Eblen. And a fight that's going under the radar, in my opinion, in AJ McKay against Paul Hughes that could be the fight of the night. But we'll get to all that in a minute. Let's just check in with Francis because he's been speaking to White and Jordan on talkSPORT a little earlier on today. And Simon posed him a question about the best of the best in MMA.
One of the things that is unique about MMA has been this idea that the best fight the best. And boxing doesn't seem to have that. Lots of politics, lots of belts. How does that play out for you, Francis? You were a UFC heavyweight champion. You're now fighting in the PFL. You've got Tom Aspinall over at the UFC. Do you ever see a situation, I know the PFL would like it because obviously they're following in behind the UFC, but do you have any worries about the fact that you've got PFL over here, UFC over there, and all of a sudden you're going to have something similar to boxing, which means that the best aren't going to fight the best?
I think the situation are a little different. I think MMA is a young sport that is growing with a different organization.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about like promoters coming together to make the best fighting the best. If everyone thinks is the best, when you are in one promotion, you are the best according to that promotion, right? But you will never know. They never put everybody in the same pool to see like who is the best, even though the best fight the best. I think what they say, the best fight the best, the difference here is that in boxing you see somebody that might be the first or the top in the top 5 fighting a guy that is number 100 or 200 something, which is thing that you don't see in MMA. Any fight in MMA is kind of like relevant, makes sense. And then doesn't matter which organization they are at, they need to create that excitement into fan, and that's what MMA brings more in the table. There are less politics in MMA, even though there are still a little bit, but there are way less politics in MMA than in boxing. Boxing is more set about like business, who is in charge, who is in this position, and then what can we do to protect our interests. And I think that's one of the things that I learned in boxing. It's all about it's not about fighter, it's about like a team, it's about a group of people that protect their interests.
Okay.
And that can sometimes can do everything to protect their interests.
So Francis, very briefly, what can we expect when you get back in the cage against this fella Ferreira?
Action. Action with some excitement. I haven't been MMA for so long now, and to be honest, I'm quite I can't wait to get there, and find out But what I know for sure is that there's gonna be some action. I can make prediction, but I don't. Nobody knows what's gonna happen for sure. But I can guarantee you there will be action.
The interview with Francis is available for you now on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel in full. You can go and check that out. But that's a question that you were asked last week when you were on talkSPORT, Dan. What are your thoughts regarding the way that has been positioned by Simon Jordan about the best of the best, and whether the rise of the PFL maybe is taking us away from the best fighters always been in the UFC?
Well, I mean that is a valid conversation to be having, I think. But that also brings Renan Ferreira into the conversation, though, right? Because, like, of course, Francis Ngannou, former UFC champ, he relinquished the belt and he left. Now he's over in the PFL. But we've got Renan Ferreira over here who's just ran through Ryan Bader in 40 seconds. He's an absolute monster of a human being, and like. Obviously everyone's excited for Francis. Everyone's excited he's back in mixed martial arts. Everyone's excited that he's going to be making his PFL debut. But like, there's a lot of talk around him coming back, and not the fact that he's fighting this giant Brazilian phenom. And it is a very, very difficult fight for him. So yeah, I agree. A lot of the good heavyweights, a lot of the best heavyweights are over in the UFC. But at the same time, for my money, Renan Ferreira can compete with any of those guys.
Absolutely. Listen, I think the caveat in and around this fight of the weekend, Bren, we'll come back to Ferreira in a minute because I want people to know a little bit more about him. But Francis Ngannou's absolutely transcended. He's gone into the mainstream with what he's been doing in the world of boxing over the last year professionally. But there's a lot of question marks maybe now around him because we haven't seen him in an MMA setting for best part of 2.5 years. Obviously, he's been concentrating on the world of boxing. He's had major knee surgery in that period of time as well. He's had a horrific time in his personal life. And, of course, he's coming off the back of that boxing knockout to Anthony Joshua. So there's a lot of questions around Francis and whether he's still at the level that he once was.
There's a hell of a lot of questions, you are right. And if anyone knows, and if you look at Francis's story, I mean, I've never, ever seen a story like it in sport. Never mind just in mixed martial arts, mate. Where this guy came from to where he is now is nothing short of extraordinary. So I would never write Francis Ngannou off in a fight. But to flip onto Renan Ferreira, I've shared changing rooms with him. I've been on multiple cards with him. And I've never seen a 6'8" guy do a backflip. That's the kind of guy that he's up against. If he was born in the United States, he'd be a linebacker and he'd be a trillionaire because the guy is a freak specimen. I've never seen anything like it, Adam.
What I like about Ferreira, Dan, and you'll be able to give us a little bit more of the story, especially his story within the PFL, is that he's had some bumps. He had some bumps along the way here. There was that period of time, I know there was a weird period of time where performance-enhancing drug violations and various like that, where a couple of his opponents then ended up in no contest. But he had technically 3 back-to-back losses, but he's bounced back. His last 4, round 1 knockouts, round 2 knockouts, against levels of opposition that keeps going up and up. You mentioned Ryan Bader there. The guy's in the form of his life.
It really is. I think one of the big things that's made a difference to him as well is his move to American Top Team. The big gap in his game, and the same thing for all tall fighters, really, apart from maybe Stefan Struve, who's got a good armbar. Most tall fighters, they get taken down and they get controlled, by someone that's got a strong top game. And that's where Renan Ferreira struggled at times in his career. But then, since he's moved to ATT, they've found that hole in his game. They've sealed it up. They've got some of the best grappling coaches around to make sure that area of his game is safe and secure now. And we've seen that, in his recent fights. We've seen him work his way out of some bad spots. And that's also given him a lot of confidence in his striking as well, because now he's not got that conversation in the back of his mind that, well, if I throw this punch, I might end up getting taken down. Because now he knows he can create space. I mean, like, you look at that fight against Goltsov, right? He was waiting for Goltsov to throw the first punch so he could counter it. He did the same thing with Ryan Bader. Like, that's the real danger for Francis here, because, it's been a couple of years since he's been in the cage. He's going to be anxious and excitable. He knows if he connects with one punch, he can knock any man on the planet out. So the temptation is for him to start letting his hands go pretty early, and that's where Ferreira starts to counter with those long arms and that heavyweight power that he brings to the table.
Brem, profile-wise, obviously the mainstream are looking at this going, hey, Francis is back. Tremendous. We know what Francis does. He lands on people, he puts them to kit. That's what we all want to see come Sunday morning. But from a Renan Ferreira point of view, this is a shot at superstardom. You're fighting Francis Ngannou. If you knock out Francis Ngannou, nobody's knocked him out in MMA. We've seen it in boxing. Nobody's done it in MMA. If you knock him out in MMA, you become a superstar overnight.
Adam, I'm not joking when I say this is a straight 50-50 battle. Like, honestly, on paper, I would put this down as even each way because you've got Francis Ngannou, we've seen his history, unbelievable knockout power, like Dan just touched on. Renan Ferreira's been at ATT, unbelievable grapplers there, and they've obviously sealed that up. I just think in this fight, no joke, it's whoever connects first. Two absolute machines, and it's whoever lands clean first. That's literally what it's going to come down to in my eyes.
Great, isn't it? There's nothing better than heavyweight.
Nothing better.
Come on, let's be honest. There's nothing better than it when there's two absolute colossuses like this who can just touch you and you go over. Man, it's absolutely captivating viewing. And as well as that, Dan, the supporting cast. And that sounds like I'm being derogatory to the rest of them because it shouldn't be that because you've got plenty of fights on here that could actually headline their own card, especially when you've got Chrissy Cyborg in that co-main in a fight that a lot of people have been talking about for a long period of time against Larissa Pacheco. It may be across the whole of MMA, seeing as that Simon Jordan started this debate across the whole of MMA today, it may be the best female fight in the whole of MMA in 2024.
I mean, well, Cyborg versus Larissa Pacheco in the co-main event as well. I mean, that really is a main event in itself. And then we've got the rematch with Eblen and Edwards. And as you said, AJ McKee, Paul Hughes flying under the radar. Like there's a lot of fights on this card to look forward to. And it'd be my first time calling the Rafael Stotts fight as well. I'm looking forward to that.
He's mad as a box of frogs, him, that Stotts fella, isn't he, Bren? Jeez, man. He's pay-per-view without even fighting, that fella.
You know what, mate? The best thing ever was these two promotions joining up because look at the fights we're getting now. With these two promotions, two world-class promotions coming together and putting on cards like this now. I mean, I'm being biased. My favourite fight on the card is obviously Paul Hughes. I know Paul Hughes against AJ McKee. I mean, what a fight. What a set of cojones on Paul Hughes to step up in your second PFL fight and fight AJ McKee. Yeah, he put it all out there and respect to the man. That's my personal one that I'm looking forward to the most, lads.
Regarding the British interest, and that being Fabian Edwards, he's been in with Johnny Eblen before, and Johnny's rise has been pretty astounding from obviously collegiate wrestling to now being undefeated in the world of MMA in a relatively short period of time. A lot of people talking about where he stands on the worldwide scale when it comes to those middleweights, but he's been through Fabian before. He's felt it, he knows what it's all about, and he stopped him in good fashion. How does Fabian, from your point of view, Brent, approach this rematch when he knows full well the guy on the other side has got the touch of death and can put him out?
I was at that last fight and, Johnny Eblen, I personally think could be one of the best middleweights on the planet Earth, if not the best. Like, this guy is a tank moving forward. The way he comes forward is incredible. His wrestling's phenomenal. His conditioning was great in that fight. And I know how good Fabian is. I've been on a match with Fabian. I've watched Fabian's whole career. And to do that to Fabian is no easy task. Fair play to Fabian for taking it again, wants to get the win back. Again, I'm not trying to sell the card, people, but it's 50-50 for me again down the middle. It is.
It's going to be interesting to see, isn't it, Dan, how Fabian does approach this rematch, because he had large pockets of success first time around, probably the most amount of success that we've seen against Eblen in an MMA contest until that third round came along and then Eblen just took over. I think actually cutting him made him more angry, didn't it? You know what I mean? He landed on him, he spliced him up, and then he just went, hang on a minute, you cheeky little so-and-so, I'll show you what's what here. It kind of made Eblen a little bit more angry.
Well, it certainly made Eblen, get to work quicker, and you guys know as well as I do, a cut like that doesn't normally get stopped from bleeding in between rounds. The cut man did an incredible job to get Eblen back out the next round. And he probably had, 2 or 3 minutes to get to work before the doctor came in and waved it off. He had to put his foot on the gas. And the challenge with Eblen is the way that he level changes. He drops his head, he throws his right hand over the top, and he drops his left arm around the back of your lead leg. So it's like you're defending a takedown and the right hand at the same time. And I think, if you look back at the earlier rounds, Eblen was able to get in on the legs, but Fabian was able to defend. He was able to get the head to the inside, bring him back up into the clinch, and then get off the fence. But after he got cut, that was a different version of Eblen. Instead of stepping forward with the right hand into a takedown, he went double right hand. and the second one clipped him clean and got through. Like, it's one of those things. I mean, Fabian can look at it and go, well, don't get lazy up against the fence. Don't expect him to level change. Don't underestimate his punching power. There's loads of things that he can do. But ultimately, if he'd have landed that elbow, just a fraction slightly differently the round before, he would have knocked Eblen out cold. So I think Fabian knows he's got the skills to do the job. I just think he needs the cards to fall right, on the night, and they just didn't on that previous fight.
Dan, obviously you're calling this on Saturday night. I've been around you on many occasions when you've been calling fights. The love, the passion that you show, obviously, when calling fights. You just can't hold it in, mate. You're going to be stood up for the majority of this, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely, mate. I'll be bouncing on my toes like I am when the Locknane's fighting. You know how it is. I can't hold still. The chair just gets in the way. I tend to use like the front 10% of the chair, and I'm mainly on my toes. And these fights from start to finish are going to have me out of my seat. There's no point in even giving me a chair.
Mate, honestly, I feel for his comms team. I've been on comms with him, right? You get punched, you get elbowed, you get shoved to the side. He's in there like this. Mate, he's all in. He's all in. But that's why it's great.
It's this one here that gets me. When this comes out, yeah, Dan is zooming in on the martial arts action. He's watching it in slow motion in his head, thinking, "Yeah, that's what I called. I called that. I knew that was going to happen." It's mad. It's mad. He's like the professor of MMA. It's nuts. He calls everything. I'm actually scared. He's got mystic powers.
What I'm trying to encourage with Don Davis, who obviously and the team, the hierarchy at PFL, can they do in-play betting, right? Because Dan calls it normally about 30 seconds before it happens, so I can hit that bet, make myself a few quid. That'd be tremendous.
You don't want me getting involved in any betting. My picks are terrible. I can usually tell you roughly what's going to happen in the fight, but then when you force me to make a prediction, I go the opposite way and I get it wrong every time. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe I just got punched in the head a few too many times when I was fighting.
Listen, mate, looking forward to it. Without any shadow of a doubt, I think we've been building it on talkSPORT throughout the course of the week. Is the best card so far that the PFL have put on, and long may this continue. Obviously, Francis taking on Renan Ferreira in that main event with a fantastic co-main event of Chrissy Cyborg against Larissa Pacheco. And after this, of course, all eyes are going to be on Saudi Arabia once again for the main man here and Dakota Dechiva. We've got to let you have your little say on that, Dan, at the end. I mean, Manchester MMA, my man, flying. McGrillen last week, Dakota, Bren doing the business. The Northwest is taking over.
Ridiculous. Honestly, I mean, what a trilogy of warriors that Manchester's got right now. I mean, McGrillen put on a performance of a lifetime the other week in Glasgow. I've watched it back probably 10 times myself. I'm still standing up when I'm watching it in replays. It's wild. And then obviously, Dakota and Brendan, getting in there for the $1 million. Brendan trying to do it for a second time around, get a belt for the other shoulder. It's exciting times to be from Manchester. I'm looking forward to bringing the PFL up there again very soon.
Well, Dan, hurry up about it, mate. Let's get a date booked. Come on, I keep hearing noise, yeah? I want the MEN Arena booked ASAP. Come on.
All right, I'll get on the blower as soon as we're off this interview.
Come on, lad.
Listen, if there's a couple of world champions and a European champion,
it makes sense.
You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a no-brainer. Mr. Hardy, know that your time's precious, man. I know that you're busy as they come out in Saudi Arabia. Enjoy the week. We're looking forward to getting stuck into this on Saturday night on the Zone pay-per-view. Can't wait, my man. Thank you very much for joining us.
Nice one, Dan. See you soon, brother.
Thank you, guys. Always great. Enjoy these fights.
I know that we're slightly biased because you are obviously a PFL fighter, but without any shadow of a doubt, that this weekend is the best card that they've put together. It really is worthy of the MMA community's attention, especially that main event, mate. Francis against Renan Ferreira. I think you kind of just nailed it there. Two big units, touch of death in their hands. Can you see it going more than 5
minutes or rounds? What are we talking here?
Minutes. I'm not talking rounds, mate.
Seconds, like me, mate. Listen, Adam, that fight there, mate. I will make sure I am somewhere very comfortable, sat watching that, because that has got violence just written right across it, mate. Can't wait.
No, can't wait indeed. There's plenty of other things that are going on in the world of MMA away from the PFL. You may have seen an announcement from Dana White that he has released a few fights for UFC 310, which is Las Vegas in December. First week of December to finish off their numbered cards of the year. Headlining, Bilal Muhammad's back out. He's defending against Shavkat Rakhmonov. And then you've got Alexandre Pantoja defending his crown against a UFC newcomer. That's right. Kai Asakura, rising legend, is getting the opportunity to be fighting for the flyweight crown. Listen, I'm gonna go on record here. Alex Pereira, right, is currently in everybody's mind the fighter of the year. Yeah, would you agree, Brent?
I know where you go, but it's I don't like it. Keep going.
Right. so Alex Pereira is currently the fighter of the year. 3 defenses in the light heavyweight division. Sensational, mate. I don't think anybody's going to argue as we sit here right now. What date is it? It's 15th of October. Nobody's going to argue with that. Nobody's arguing at all. If, as we enter the second week of December, if Bilal Muhammad is still the welterweight champion, send him the trophy. Because if you have managed to go away from home, dominate Leon Edwards, and then go and take the 0 of Shavkat Rakhmonov in the same 12-month period, in fact, in a 4-month period, which is what it'll end up being,
Wow.
you deserve all the praise in the world. Because nobody would have predicted that at the start of this year. Not even Bilal would have predicted that at the start of the year. If he pulls that off, if he beats Leon Edwards and Shavkat Rakhmonov inside 4 months of each of those fights, I think he top trumps Pereira, mate. That's sensational. Mate,
honestly, seriously, what this man has done is nothing short of incredible. Shavkat is, I believe, 18-0 with 18 finishes. Am I correct, Adam?
You are correct.
Imagine. There's the belt, son. There's your first defense. Straight away. He doesn't even get the parade, Adam. He just gets there, Shavkat. Take that one. It's like, wow, what a first defense. 18-0 with 18 finishes. It's like, it doesn't come any harder. So, yes, you are right. I will join forces with you and categorically say I will also give it him because what a mammoth task that man has.
Do you think, and listen, I've written him off before on plenty of occasions, Bilal, and he keeps surprising me. He keeps making me eat my words. As you look at this, is the champion going into this fight as an underdog?
Mate, I'll answer that one, but let me just answer this first. Like, this poor guy, man, you've seen how much he gets roasted by every UFC fighter ever. I mean, every day I go on Twitter, it's someone else roasting him. And I'm like, it's like, he just can't catch a break, can he? Like, no matter, like, how good he looks in that last fight, no one cares. Now he's fighting Shavkat. If he does the same again, guess what, Adam? No one will care.
They will have to. They will have to care. If you've done 2 back-to-back like that, they have to, mate. They have to. You can't. How can you refuse him?
Do you think they will?
Probably not. But I'll tell you what. I'll sign up to be the leader of the Bilal Muhammad fan club. I'll be the ringleader if he pulls this off because I genuinely believe he's going into this fight as an underdog. I genuinely believe that because I rate Shavkat so highly because his rate of finishing, his range, is just so high. He can do anything. He can finish you in any position. Might be the hardest fight in MMA right now, Shavkat. It might be the hardest matchup for anybody. Like you said, Adam, touching, he can finish from anywhere. The stories that I hear from him in the gym and how good he actually is incredible. So, yeah, Bilal, you know what, Adam? My hat's off to him, man. My hat is off to that man. Taking on Leon Edwards and then taking on him in a 4-month period. Like you said, if you'd have told him that at the start of the year, he'd have been like, and especially like how long it took him to get a title shot, Adam. Then he gets a title shot and then they give him Shavkat as your first defense. What has this man done to anyone? Like, please, Adam, can we? Like, we're going to put it out there that Bilal Muhammad is fighter of the year if he wins. Like, I'm going to join the fan club with you, Adam. I swear. This goes back to the conversation that Simon Jordan's been having with Francis Ngannou earlier on. This is best of the best. Your number 1 contender, Shavkat Rakhmonov. You don't get a layup, sunshine. You're straight in. Away you go. What do you make of the co-main event? Because I'm a massive fan of Alexandre Pantoja. He's getting close to that age, isn't he? You know, the cut-off time of those lower weight divisions of 35 years of age. Yeah. And he's taking on a UFC debutant. Don't get me wrong. It's a well-seasoned pro, a guy that's been there, done it, and got the T-shirt in other franchises like Ryzen in Kai Asakura. A lot of people have been talking about him coming over. I think the UFC are desperate for a Japanese superstar. It's an opportunity for him. But there's a few other runners and riders that have been overlooked. You just brought somebody in from the outside. Go on, son. You're straight in for a title shot.
Yeah, I mean, but let's have it right. Pantoja's done laps of the top 10 now, and I mean, come on. They have to start reaching right down now, don't they, for him to find a matchup. So I think it's a great idea. Why not rip the script up and throw it out the window every now and then? Bring some superstar in from the other side of the world, and let's see what happens. Like you said, Mother Time's catching up with him, and this could be your new guy, your new superstar. If he gets the job done, he's young, he's exciting. You know, he's from that side of the world. They need a new superstar, so it all lines. It's a win-win.
Yeah. And the fight that was supposed to be happening next week in Abu Dhabi has been rebooked for December. Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov. It's a rematch, of course, of which Gane won the first time around. He's been out for a long period of time. He's been on the catwalk. He's been doing the modelling. He's been doing the films. He's been being the celebrity. But has he been putting the work in the mixed martial arts gym? I suppose we're going to find out in December, because the heavyweight division needs something. We've got Jones and Stipe in this Legends fight. Then you've got the bottleneck of Tom Aspinall waiting for them. There's no other contender. These two have to deliver something in December to get this division firing again.
Well, let's go back to Simon. Let's go back to what Simon said, right? You've got two guys on this weekend that could potentially be the best in the world. We don't know. Obviously, we're biased with Tom Aspinall. He's our friend.
Yeah,
we love him, right? But Francis Ngannou left the UFC with the belt. Like, he left with the belt. He now comes to the PFL. It's an argument for another day, but he is essentially the champion over there, kind of, against the champion of the PFL, kind of. So in a way, that argument, what Simon was talking about, is kind of happening this weekend in a roundabout way.
Let me check this out.
Go on, go.
Francis wins this weekend, yeah?
Yeah.
What's the biggest fight in world MMA for him?
John Jones and Francis Ngannou. So what then? Go back?
No. Well, yeah, I'm just thinking about Tom. He can't catch a break, the kid, can he? You know what I mean? He sat there waiting for his big shot.
Well, what is the big one, Adam?
The big shot for him is John Jones. That's what he wants.
No, I know, but what is the biggest fight if Ngannou knocks him out?
Francis Ngannou and John Jones.
And we all want to see it. Oh, wow.
Yeah. The thing is, Francis Ngannou's got to deliver this weekend. We don't know where he's at.
Yeah,
and if he is,
exactly.
if he's still in that place, and as you rightfully said before when you were speaking to Dan, if there's anybody that can defy logic, defy odds, defy time, it's Francis Ngannou. And if he turns up this weekend and he knocks this fella out, then there's a conversation and there's going to be a demand. The fans are going to start demanding that Francis Ngannou has this crossover in some way, shape or form with a UFC superstar.
I mean, I would absolutely love that to happen for his own legacy, because let's have it right. He's gone to boxing. He's had that crazy fight with Tyson Fury, put him on the canvas, got up, an unbelievable, terrible knockout from Anthony Joshua. Then the personal tragedy. Then they put this 6'8" Brazilian doing backflips in front of you. If you overcome that from where you've come from and where you're at now, John Jones and Francis, if John Jones gets it done, of course.
Of course.
That needs to, it needs to, like, okay, listen, they've both got tough fights, but if all the stars align, you're right, there'll be riots in the MMA community about that fight, won't there? There'll just be riots. They'll just be like, it's a shame for Tom. It really is, because it'll get pushed back even further. Then the talk will only be about that, won't it? Like, I know it can't happen contractually, but that's all people will be interested in. That's all. Like, if they both come off first round knockouts, which is likely-ish. Yeah. What are we talking about here? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know, mate, it's sad, but it's the truth.
Also on that 310 card, Nick Diaz. That's right. Taking on Vicente Luque. I know it's been billed a couple of times. It's fallen off a couple of times. I think the big question is, Will Nick Diaz make it to the octagon? That's the question. Let's be honest. Will he make it?
I hope so, mate, because, wow, whenever I'm out in Las Vegas, he is always out. It's not a night out in Las Vegas without bumping into Nick Diaz, so let's hope that he just curved all the party in and just put the working in the gym for this one. I hope so, mate, because what a legend of a fighter, man. What about Daily Diaz, like my favourite first round of all time? Like, he's an absolute hero of the sport. To people like me that have been in it as long as I have, like, the guy is a hero, and I want to see him turn up at least the best version of himself. I'm not saying I want to see the old Nick Diaz, because that guy's long gone. I want to see him be the best version that he could possibly be. That's all.
Yeah, I want to see him lie down in the octagon and flip the bird at somebody and all sorts of bits and bats, mate. Just old school.
Yeah,
Old school,
I want him to go out on a knockout and retire. That'd be ideal, but do we ever retire? I know. Mate.
Speaking of which, Tony Ferguson's been on with Demetrius Johnson on his YouTube channel, and he's been saying, "I ain't going anywhere. I'm carrying on."
He said he's too old to retire. He says that's the exact word. He's too old to retire. So what does that mean? Like, you're just going to go till when? I can't see him ever stopping.
Yeah, you're right. I've got the exact quote here. I'm not retiring. I'm too old to retire. At 40 years old, I'm halfway to 80. I've been competing since I was 5 years old, playing different sports. It's not that I don't know anything else. I do. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever there, Tony, but you know what I mean? It's Tony Ferguson.
It's a typical Tony Ferguson quote. Yeah.
Is anybody going to be able to tell Tony Ferguson what to do? It's going to be interesting to see how the UFC play it. Are we on 8
How many fight loss?
I think we're on 8. Yeah.
When do you get the tap on the shoulder?
But probably at 4. But you know, I think we've gone past that, haven't we?
Is his next fight in the UFC?
It's not booked, and I doubt it. Come on, I doubt that the UFC are going to rebook him. I doubt that. What are you smiling at, you?
They can't let him go to 9, Adam, man. They can't, man. It's like...
I'll tell you what. If Nick Diaz beats Vicente Luque, Nick Diaz and Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm pleased. I'd say to them both, this is your last fight in the UFC, lads.
This is it.
I'm sorry. These are the contracts. They both say one fight on, and after that, lads, it's over.
More on that.
I know.
In the not too distant future. Listen, next week we're going to be previewing a card from Abu Dhabi as UFC 308 rocks into town. Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. I'm loving the back and forth already between these two guys. And it's only going to get even hotter next week. Hamzat in town as well, taking on Robert Whittaker. There's an interview with Robert Whittaker on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Make sure you go and check that out as we build up towards everything that's happening in Abu Dhabi. And we do have British interest on that card as well. Lerone Murphy, Dan Ige going at it in an absolute banger at featherweight. Should be a cracking fight. Have you got another training session now, have you? Got to go off and get another session in?
It's 11 p.m, Adam, mate. I'm getting
You're done for the day.
Like that. Yeah, thank God. 3 in. 3 in, mate.
Well done. Never stops. The grind never stops. Make sure you like and subscribe to talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Plenty more coming throughout the course of the week as we build up towards Ngannou and Ferreira, the battle of the giants in the PFL. We'll catch you next time.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.